The war was already drawing to a close. The Soviet observation post was located about 500 meters from the enemy's position, situated in an open field, behind which were the Kurland forests, thick and impenetrable. This post was covered by soldiers from a fine company. Sergeants and soldiers who had been penalized for drinking or fighting with officers. But all of them were ready to do the deed, to remove from themselves the shameful stigma of a penalty officer. After all, the war was ending and it was necessary to be in time. On the night of December 25th, Soviet scouts stealthily went deep into the rear of the Germans and cut the telephone line, attached to the wire of their trophy, and stretched it to his dugout. Catch, they say, big and small fish. Sitting, waiting, and suddenly a big field officer, checking the break in the communication line, not noticing the night turn, appeared at the ambush and was immediately tied up. He still managed to grab his pistol and shoot, but hit himself in the leg. 4 soldiers tied him up with difficulty, and brought him on a trench coat to the officer's dugout. Officer was red-faced, fearlessly angry and of a bogater physique. Over the side of his jacket he had sewn a red ribbon of the Iron Cross. He said that half a kilometer behind their positions are 3 divisions of anti-aircraft guns. But since the evening of December 24th, the Germans had not fired or thrown flares. The Russians at first thought that the Germans were retreating, but they had nowhere to retreat to but forward to the breakthrough. But they couldn't see or hear any troop concentrations. Then they decided to check everything. The commander of the company of penal officers was given a task. It was necessary to conduct reconnaissance and search for captured tongues. The senior lieutenant took up this rather risky endeavor and selected volunteers who were ready to go to death, but to take off the dishonorable title of a penalty officer. A small group of intendants, soldiers and sergeants volunteered. Having looked at them, everyone was sure that everything would work out. At dawn on December 25th, we with sappers approached the enemy's wire fences and, having found no one in the trenches to the right and left, quietly checked the presence of mines with mine detectors, made a passage in the fence, where our squad of 3 penal officers went, followed by a cover of 10 machine gunners. The platoon positioned itself in the enemy trenches as if in its own defense. I myself immediately returned to the observation post, because as commander I was not supposed to be further from my position. By field telephone I informed the regimental commander about the start of the operation and received his blessing. On another phone I contacted the artillery, for support in case of emergency. While I was talking, my orderly looked into the dugout and called me upstairs. I came out and saw a group of drunken Germans being escorted by our 3 scouts. The prisoners are playing harmonica, singing and shouting, "Hitler kaputt." 23 Germans. We hastily searched them for weapons, and I immediately sent them straight to the division headquarters. An hour later the scout boys returned and came straight to me. They proudly showed the Order of Glory screwed to their uniforms. Then they began to tell me that it turns out that the Germans, where the penalized men were, have dugouts where anti-aircraft gunners hang out. They celebrate Christmas. Then I couldn't stand it any longer. I suggested we go and take prisoners again. The guys agreed. Passing through the forest, the scouts came to a vast clearing, in the center of which stood a tank with an open hatch. The tankers, who also celebrated Christmas well, were snoring. On the right one after another were dugouts, the distance between them 30 meters. The scouts approached the third one, from where they could hear the noise of the Germans' revelry. "Open the doors," the senior sergeant commanded in German to surrender. With raised hands the Germans came out, took a large bottle of rum with them, and readily headed for Soviet captivity. At that moment someone woke up in the tank. Then from the 4th dugout, their commander appeared. He instantly understood everything and fired a pistol, giving a sign to his tankers. They shot after the group of prisoners, but missed. And so, the heroic 3 again arrived at the command post of their division, and with them 22 more prisoners. An hour later the guys came back to my dugout again, and showed me another Order of Glory. I repeat for clarification, it happened on December 25, 1944 in the 198th Rifled Division of the 10th Guards Army of the 2nd Baltic Front. Whomever I told about this case, they do not believe me. The above described epic ended with the fact that the Penalty Company, supported by artillery, took the first trenches of the enemy's defense. Moved on to anti-aircraft guns and dugouts. There, having shot down an enemy tank, it consolidated, having repulsed several German counterattacks. But in the end, still had to withdraw and take the same place. Then the thunder of artillery was heard all along the front with such force that I felt my heart stop for a few seconds as I stood there. From that hour on I had another ailment.